How's it going, my truant people? DrSlaking, the Slacking Doctor, back for another Draft League review, and this time we are reviewing Gigalith, or Gigalith, if you will, if you click. One of the few Pokemon that I really used in the new metagame that I hadn't used before, in the new Sword and Shield metagame that I hadn't used before, that really impressed me. If you don't know what this series is, it's a series where I look back on some of the Pokemon we've been using on the channel primarily in Draft League format, and I give a review of that Pokemon, whether I think it's worth drafting, whether I don't think it's worth drafting. I look over some of the sets that I used on that Pokemon, as well as the team composition that I drafted it on, and I try to offer some analysis of how to build with this mon, or how not to build with this mon, how to draft around it, etc, etc, the niche that it has, and how good it is at filling that niche. So, all of that being said, I want to dive straight into this one because I'm really excited for this. If you guys haven't already subscribed and you want to see more of these, then please do subscribe and check out the subscriber Discord down in the description. Also, leave this video a like if you like this series, because the first episode of Copperajah did pretty well and you guys seem to like it a lot, so more support on this series would mean the world to me. Anyway, obviously, you have seen the thumbnail at this point. Best Sansetta. What does that mean? Well, for those of you who don't know, Sandstream is an ability which summons Sandstorm, the weather effect on the field of Sandstorm as soon as Gigalith hits the field. So I think it's between 5 and 7 turns, or whatever it is. I can't remember. Sand is up on the field. I think it's 5 to 7 turns. I don't think it would tell me if I do this, will I? Sandstorm for 5 turns of sand. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you add a smooth rock to this thing, you get it for, oh, it's 8, sorry, not 7. By the by, why do I think this is the best Sansetta, or do I even think that? Was it just clickbait? We'll get into that in a second. This also has the Sturdy ability and Sandforce. I could see making use of Sturdy as like a Rock's lead, maybe Stealth Rock, Sturdy Explosion, something like that. And Sandforce, if you also drafted Hippowdon, you want to be a wall breaker with it. It does have a good strong attack, so maybe, but realistically, you're going to be running Sandstream all the time. Now, what else does this do? You can see by Gigalith's base stats here. It has an okay base HP, 85, is nothing to write home about, it's okay. 135 attack means it is really strong. It's really strong. People don't appreciate how strong 135 base attack with a stab move that's 100 base power. Like, that's strong. This thing hits hard. Defense 130 is pretty bulky. Special attack 60, you're never really going to use that. Spadef 80 is pretty underwhelming combined with that 85 HP. That's not great at all. And then 25 speed. Obviously, this one is very slow. Now, the one thing that's worth noting here, base 80 Spadef gets boosted by Sandstream. Rock types get 1.5, I think, times Spadef in Sandstorm. So this being a rock type, it gets that Spadef boost. It doesn't quite work out that it's 140 base defense, so like 80 times 1.5 is 120, sorry. It doesn't quite work out like that. I think it's actually higher than that, if I remember correctly. I think the way the multiplier works is that it works off your investment. So this stat here, which I think once it's multiplied works out as higher than if it was base 120. So let's say it works out at about 130. You've got an 85 HP, 130 defense, 130 Spadef, essentially, which means you are really tanky and really strong. So that's why I think this thing's stats all around are really good. The only things it's not good with is speed and special attack, and it has no form of reliable recovery. So it's got no slack off, you can see here. It's got no shore up. There's no way it can kind of recover its HP outside of leftovers. So I think that puts a lot of people off it as well, because it isn't a wall, and people... The competitors for the Sansetta in this metagame are Hippowdon and Tyranitar. And Hippowdon is a fantastic wall, and Tyranitar is a fantastic wall breaker, and a couple of other things too. So I think people think, well, if I want a wall breaking rock type, I'll take Sansetta, I'll take Tyranitar. And if I want a sand setting wall, I'll take Hippowdon. Why would I take Gigalith over those two? We will get onto that. So, what kind of a team did I draft it on? I look over here because we are live editing. I drafted it here. So you can see I had Excadrill, Goodra, Arcanine. I'm going to have to look over here because it's on my second monitor, excuse me. Excadrill, Goodra, Arcanine, Whimsicott, Gigalith, Golisopod, Toxicroak, Reuniclus, Vullaby, Frostlass. So you can see I drafted hard sand here. I have Goodra as a fantastic kind of water resist. I have Golisopod is a fantastic water resist. Whimsicott is a fantastic water resist. All the things that sand will appreciate when you're drafting a sand team. I have Excadrill to abuse sand. I have Toxicroak to be a water immunity. And then I have grass resists in Vullaby, Toxicroak, and Sap Sipper Goodra, as well as Intimidate Arcanine, and then just Whimsicott being a grass type. So the two kind of things that when you're drafting like a sand core, you tend to pile up like grass and water weaknesses. I've got those more than covered on this team composition. Then I have quite a lot of momentum into my Excadrill with things like Whimsicott, Golisopod, and Vullaby, giving me nice momentum with either U-turn or emergency exit. So that's pretty cool. Arcanine would have had Teleport if this was post-home, but it wasn't. This was pre-home. So yeah, excuse me. Pretty cool team. Pretty cool team. And you can see here that Gigalith's main job is really just to get sent up for Excadrill. Like, it doesn't really need to do too much else, apart from the only other rocker on my team is that Excadrill. So I'm really relying on either Gigalith or Excadrill getting rocks up in every single game. That, in the Copperajah analysis, was a bad thing. I was looking at Copperajah and saying, this thing doesn't want to get rocks up every single game. It wants 4 attacks, it wants all its coverage, it wants to be able to get damage off because it hits so hard. You just want to be wall breaking with Copperajah. I feel very, very differently about Gigalith, and we're going to get onto that now with the first set that I brought, which was versus Blue Jay on Toast, who did not draft the team that's now on your screen. It was actually drafted by someone else who dropped week 1, and my brain is eluding me. But you can see their team: Dragapult, Rotom, Wash, Clefable, Copperajah, Hitmonchan, Salazzle, Shiftry, Chinchino, Cofagrigus, Frostmoth. And this is the first Gigalith set that I brought. As I say, I prepped this for week 1. I'd never used Gigalith before, wasn't really sure how to build with it. This was the first set that I kind of came up with. So, we have leftovers for some recovery: Stone Edge, Earthquake, Heavy Slam, and Stealth Rock. So you can see straight away, week 1, this is my rocker. I think this came to every game but 1, I think, in the season. I should note that. Something we said about Copperajah, I think it only came to 3 games all season. This game, I came all the way to semi-finals with this team, and it came to every game but 1. So that shows you how much Gigalith was necessary on this team composition. So we have simple Edgequake plus Heavy Slam. Now I have Heavy Slam because my opponent has a Clefable, and this was my dedicated Clefable switching. Even if they were Calm Mind, if they were Cosmic Power, any shit like that, I was just coming in and I was Heavy Slamming them. With the weight of Gigalith, plus the power of Heavy Slam into Clefable, this thing hits so hard. Edgequake is famously good coverage. You know, Edgequake is Stone Edge plus Earthquake, essentially Rock plus ground coverage. It could be Power Gem plus Earth Power, but essentially Rock plus ground coverage is incredibly hard to switch in on, because Steel resists Rock but is weak to ground. Flying types are immune to ground but are weak to rock, etc, etc. There's just not that many typings that can switch in on it. Things like Virizion, Chestnut, Bronzong, these are some of the best Edgequake resists, but there's not really like a single typing that can deal with this combo. So you can see my opponent's team. Dragapult doesn't want a Stone Edge, Rotom doesn't want a Stone Edge, Clefable doesn't want the Heavy Slam, Copperajah doesn't want the Earthquake, Hitmonchan doesn't want the Earthquake or Heavy Slam, Salazzle doesn't want the Earthquake, Shiftry doesn't want the Stone Edge, Chinchino doesn't want the Stone Edge, Cofagrigus doesn't want the Stone Edge, and Frostmoth doesn't want the Stone Edge. So it's pretty simple just to slap their whole team with this and get rocks up as well. Now, let's talk about the EV investment on here. I was running 4 in attack with an Adamant Nature, and you might think this is, again, where throughout this series I'm going to try and teach you guys a little bits about team building. I don't profess to be the best EVer in the world, but it's things that I've been taught by my front office members primarily, who are very good team builders, and I just want to try and pass that on now. So, first things first, why this? Why not put it in Spadef in the nature? So we can see we're trying to hit 122 and 171, right? They're the 2 stats we've got to hit. So let's put that there. Let's try and get to 122. And then if we invest in attack, we only hit 167 instead of 171. I've invested the exact same number of EVs. I still have none remaining. And yet I've lost 4 attack points. I don't actually understand the underlying mechanics that make this happen. But in the simplest terms as how I've come to understand this, when you put your nature in the strongest base stat, you always get the most returns. So if you're having a set like this where you're investing in most stats, you want to put your plus nature in your strongest stat, more often than not. Now, there are some exceptions to this where you might have a Pokemon that has 2 very similar stats, and so it won't make a difference. Or, for example, if you are only wanting to hit 158 attack, well, by making it an Adamant Nature, you'd have more than that anyway, so you might as well just then go into Spadef, right? So there are some exceptions to it where, because of the specific stats you want, it can change. So let's change this back to Adamant. I think it was 122 here and 4 there, wasn't it? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So that's kind of how EVing works, and in very simple terms. Someone, I'm sure, maybe in the comment section, can explain why putting the plus nature in the higher stat gives you more returns. I'm sure there's something in the multiplier that does that. I don't understand it myself, but that's how I know to build. We were then running a lot of speed on this thing, which I think Mid was genning my teams around this time. Was like, why are you running so much speed on your Reuniclus and your Gigalith and stuff like that? I think if you look at my opponent's team, it's probably the Cofagrigus. We have base 25 attack, speed, sorry. So if we load up a Cofagrigus here at 30 and we put it to 50, level 50, it has base 50 speed. So yeah, I'm just outspeeding Cofagrigus by 4 points there. I'm just making sure that even if my opponent runs a little bit of investment in a Cofagrigus, I'm still going to outspeed it. I didn't feel like I needed the EVs anywhere else, so I was willing to make that trade so that I could, say, get a big Stone Edge off before I got Will-O-Wisp or something like that by Cofagrigus. I think Cofagrigus also... does it get Taunt? No, it doesn't. Okay, I was wondering if maybe I ran it for Taunt as well. It does get Energy Ball and Grass Knot and stuff like that. So... regardless, yeah, I just wanted to make sure I outsped that Cofagrigus. This team, I won this game pretty convincingly, if I remember right, and this set was pretty good. Again, Rock's such a reliable stealth rocker. I could come in on that Clefable over and over and over, take next to no damage. In fact, maybe we can do that right now. Maybe we can give you an idea. It also really helped with the Frostmoth, because I didn't want to be swept by a Frostmoth, so... let's give you just an idea of what I'm talking about here with this thing. So you get, because obviously base 85 SPDF just doesn't look that great. So I want to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. So Clefable, if it's say just like the base Clefable that's running around OU right now, Moonblast is 17% and I have leftovers recovery. Like, that's not damage. That's just not damage. I come in on you, I get it back with leftovers. I'll leave the field at 100% by the time you leave the field. Like, it's so negligible damage. And you can see my Heavy Slam's doing 82 to 97 to a max HP Clefable. I believe I will have EV'd with my attack so that I would 2-hit KO even max Fizz Def probably. Yeah, so you'll see, even after leftovers, I'm a guaranteed 2-hit KO on Fizz Def Clefable. So this is just kind of like what you're looking at in your EV spreads. What attack do you need to guarantee certain damage rolls? What SPDF do you need to guarantee certain damage rolls? And then you can see I didn't need any more SPDF or attack, so I just put it in speed to outrun that Cofagrigus. Very simple team composition. Next up, we have the game against JB, which was the final game of the season. We'd already qualified for playoffs at this point, so I was willing to experiment and take a bit of a risk with my team composition to see what I could do. So this was the first week that I'd brought Life Orb Excadrill, and I actually brought Explosion Gigalith because I thought that Drill went so crazy in this matchup. Mew, Komodo, Togekiss, Doublade, Drapion, Serena, Mudsdale, Vaporeon, Noivern, Vanillux. You can see my opponent's ground resist, Noivern, Togekiss, those ground immunities. Well, Togekiss really doesn't want an Iron Head, and neither does Noivern particularly. Other than that, like, the only other ground resist is Serena, which I might have had like X-Scissor or something for, or Poison Jab. I think I probably had Poison Jab. But in general, my opponent's team just gets messed up by Life Orb Drill. So, I brought Explosion this week, and this is one of the things that I think, one of a couple of things that I think really sets Gigalith apart as a Sansetta. If you want to bring fully offensive / hyper offensive Sand, Explosion is incredible. Explosion is so good at getting your Excadrill in when you want it in, and getting something else chipped down in the process to maximize your sand turns. And you can see here with the Smooth Rock, I can get sanded up, go boom that turn, and suddenly now I have 7 turns of sand with my Excadrill with a Life Orb, and I've gone boom on something. Like, I'm ripping your team apart. So, and if you don't want to let me kill whatever I've just gone boom on, I might get a free Swords Dance with Excadrill and then have 6 turns of sand with a +2 Excadrill staring you down. I think this is what really helps Gigalith. Along with this, Gigalith doesn't mind running Smooth Rock. Unlike Tyranitar, which might want a Choice Band, it might want a Chopal Berry, it might want Lumberry. Well, I think Tyranitar is a better Pokemon than Gigalith, but I think it's an inferior Sansetta, and there's something that Checkmate Ben told me first, and I completely agree. Tyranitar wants its item slot to do so many of the things that Tyranitar is great at. It's a great Assault Vest user, it's a great Leftovers user, it's a great Choice Band user, great Choice Scarf user, so much that Tyranitar can do. don't burden it with just being something to support Excadrill. Tyranitar is so much more than just a support Pokemon. And if you pay the points that you pay for it in a draft league, you want to get more out of it. So it's to get your value for your pick of Tyranitar. I think you don't want to be running Smooth Rock on it, which is why I think that Gigalith is superior at setting sand for your team as a whole. Hence, best Sansetta. Same issue with Hippowdon. Hippowdon can run Smooth Rock, but as a wall, Hippowdon wants leftovers. Most walls want leftovers to get that passive recovery, and I think Hippowdon is no different. I do think it likes running Smooth Rock more than T-Tar, but I still think it doesn't like it as much as Gigalith is happy to do it. Again, here, you can see my EV spread in this game. I've just ran really Spadef, a lot of speed. Chances are I'm trying to outspeed maybe Mudsdale. Let's have a look at Mudsdale. Yeah, 35, so if we make this level 50, I dare say 55 speed, and I'm running 58. So I'm speed creeping his Mudsdale. I can go boom on his Mudsdale, get off a huge chunk to that thing, and then get something in to kill it. Again, Edgequake coverage, so good. So good. Strong 100 base power moves, so strong base power moves coming off 135 attack. Even uninvested, this thing is going to mess up stuff like Togekiss, Noivern, and Vanillux. And they're really things I want to be able to switch in. I want to be able to switch in on the Vanillux. I want to be able to switch in on the Noivern, especially. And actually, my opponent in this game had a Aromatisse. So to get these teams, the website didn't exist for it anymore. I had to just grab their drafts at the end of the draft stream. And obviously JB had made a trade during the season, which I didn't remember. So this also would have been speed creep his Aromatisse as well, I'm sure, as I think that's like 29 speed. Yeah, so it would have speed crept that as well with this thing. So what we have here, though, which is an unusual privilege, is actually a Showdown replay. So let's get into that here. Most of these games are going to be on Wi-Fi, so I'm not going to be able to show replays, but this one, you can actually see it has a Toxtricity as well and an Aromatisse. So again, Spadef would have been for the Toxtricity too. We're going to put this on really fast because mostly we will just want to see what's happening here. So you can see I got a spike down turn 1 with my Frostlass, and then I went out into Gigalith on the Aromatisse, which does 21 here with the Moonblast. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I get my Rocks up as he goes for Energy Ball. Does 27. I'm sorry, I understand that Aromatisse is not the strongest Pokemon in the world. What was its base special attack? Like 99? Sure, it's relatively weak. But still, these are bouncing off Gigalith. I'm still at 50% after taking 2 attacks, and I've got my Rocks up, and I outspeed you. So now I could hit you with a big explosion if I wanted to. I could hit you with a Stone Edge. Like, now you're in a world of trouble. I've got Spikes up, and I've got Rocks up, and you've been taking Sand Chip. Out comes the Komodo. And what's just a Stone Edge that misses? Fine, that's what Stone Edge does. Again, unlike something like Terrakion, where if you miss your Stone Edge, you're probably dead. If you miss your Stone Edges with your Gigalith, it isn't the end of the world. We bring in Whimsicott on an Iron Head. Go for the Psychic because it covers him switching into the Toxtricity, which I didn't want to let in for free. Poor play by me, I should have just Moonblasted as he sacks his Komodo. But now, suddenly, that Smooth Rock coming in clutch. I got 3 turns of sand left where I would have been out of sand. I'm just going to get KOs now. I put my opponent in an incredibly difficult position. He has to bring out his Noivern on Stealth Rocks. I'm not going to stay in. I don't know his item right now. I don't want to risk it. So I just go out into my Reuniclus now, as that thing I think was Assault Vest in this game. So yeah, it was Assault Vest Regenerator. So I knew that I could take anything from Noivern. I didn't need to let my Gigalith get worn down. Now I'm just going to pivot around a little bit. Out comes the Toxtricity. Going to go back into my Reuniclus. Again, I'm just taking that little bit of pressure off Gigalith because, as I say, I don't have leftovers on Gigalith in this game. So having something that could support Gigalith being a special wall in Reuniclus was really, really helpful in this team composition. Got to go back out to Vullaby. Take nothing. And just be able to U-turn out. And this is where having, I think, I'll go for the foul play. I think I'll go for the foul play. This is where, again, just having good walls on your team on like a balance sand team like this is really, really effective. We'll speed it up a little bit to get Gigalith back in, as I'm just going to sack my Frostlass here to get my Regenerator on Reuniclus. Get off some big damage here with Reuniclus going crazy, and here we go. We go back out into Gigalith. Now, all I need is sand to win this game. Probably at about this point, all I need is to get my sand up, because once the hail goes down, especially, but if I could get rid of hail, once my sand goes up, Excadrill just kills everything. Everything is enraged. There's a spike, there's rocks, everything's dead. There's nothing that's going to outspeed me. We can just go crazy. So Eventually, we do get Gigalith in, and here, I only have one play. I'm going to click Explosion. Yes, he has the Doublade. Yes, that might mean that I lose my Gigalith to get no damage, but this is the other side of Explosion where it really doesn't matter, because now I've won the game. That's checkmate. That's all I have to do. And I think that's why Gigalith is such a good Sansetta, because it allows you to force those positions where your opponent can't try and stall out your sand turns in an end game where they're like, oh, if I make him run out of sand here, I win. They can't do that. They can't pivot around like that, because I'm just going to go boom, and I got all my sand turns, and I got smooth rock. So I thought this was a really good example of why that Explosion, even when it gets no damage against your opponent's team, still forces a really good end game for you, and how you can support this sand core with good hazards and bulky pivots and stuff. So yeah, I really liked this team. I thought this was a really good game, and really good Gigalith set. Now, onto our final Gigalith set here. This was in playoffs, first round of playoffs, quarterfinals. So, big game against a very scary opponent in Root. You can see Root's team down there: Dracovish, Cinderace, Togekiss, Duraludon, Silvally, Rotom, Mo, Runerigus, Orbeetle, Musharna, Drapion. Again, Togekiss, I got my Gigalith. It's going to have to be Nasty Plot or a Sphere to be able to really chunk me down. I will be able to help out with the Cinderace a little bit potentially. It wasn't Libero at this time. It's worth noting. I'll probably take a hit from Rotom. I might help with certain Silvallis. I'll probably also help with the Orbeetle and maybe even Musharna. So you can see here I have the Throat Chop for the Musharna just in case I need that. Other than that, I'm just running Edgequake again. I'm actually running Rock Blast in this game for potential like Sash Orbeetle or some kind of Iron Defense set or something in case I need to crit through it. Like maybe that will help with multiple hits or some shit like that. I don't know. Also helps with like Togekiss, Cinderace. Like I just felt I didn't want to miss in this game really with Stone Edge. And you never know. Sometimes Rock Blast can be a useful move for focus sashes. So Earthquake hits most things on my opponent's team. And here's a really good counter example of that EVing I was talking about. Because I didn't need 170 attack, I was willing to actually put the nature into Spadef this time. I had 4 UVs left over. Guess I could have put them in speed. I just didn't realize that. Fine, whatever. But other than that, this game I just wanted to go max Spadef. Really bulky. Again, running that smooth rock. So I've got 3 attacks, essentially Edgequake plus Throat Chop to hit the Musharna, because that was something that I was a little bit afraid of in my team composition. And I get Sand Up again, and I've EV'd to make sure that I'm taking hits so well from his special attackers and I'm being able to hit them back. Now, this was a game we won, as I say, we made semi-finals. This set, I think, put in a decent amount of work, actually. I think it really helped with Excadrill as well in this game. And then we won the game, I think, with Reuniclus in this one, but my memory is a little bit hazy. But that, yeah, this really shows you, like, the power, in my opinion, of Gigalith as a Sansetta. The fact that of 2 of these 3 sets and in a quarterfinals, I was able to run Smooth Rock, I was able to run Explosion. Every single set had Stealth Rock, and in every single game, pretty much, I got Stealth Rocks up with Gigalith and got an attack off with Gigalith. So, yeah, I think this thing cannot be praised enough. I honestly think it was just a fantastic Pokemon to use. I wonder if I have my stats for it here, actually. I wonder if I can load those up. I hope I'm signed in. I hope I can load these up for you. Cool, I can. So these are my stats from Generation 8, since the game's dropped. The Pokemon that I've used. Let's find Gigalith. Here you go, 4 and 5. So, there you go. So you can see here, this is 4 KOs, 5 feints, -1 differential from 7 games, 6 wins and 1 loss. The only game I lost that I brought Gigalith to was semi-finals against Vepsis, who was a very good player and who smashed me. So, you know, I won't complain too much about that. We will get rid of this here now as it's less significant. So you can see all the stats. 85% win rate. And 4 and 5 in 7 games, I think, shows you the fact that it made it through 2 games when I went boom in one of them. Shows you that it isn't a Pokemon that just faints in every single game. And it also shows you that it isn't completely passive. 4 KOs in 7 games, an average of just over a KO every other game, isn't bad for something that you're predominantly just getting Sand Up with and clicking Stealth Rock with. Like, it's doing something if it's getting 4 KOs in 7 games for a bulky Pokemon. You can see Arcanine, for example, only got the same amount of KOs, albeit in less games. Toxtricity, which I used in EWT in 1 game more, only got 1 KO more, so, or 1 game less, sorry, only got 1 KO more, so, yeah, that probably tells you more about me and that EWT team than anything else. But I do think Gigalith really was a fantastic Pokemon to use. I think these give you a good idea of some of the fun sets you can do, and what a tank it can be. And I think that's the crucial thing, is you need to think of this thing not as a wall and not as a wall breaker. You need to think of this as a team support tank. Just because it doesn't click T-Wave doesn't mean it's not team support. Just because it doesn't click Heal Bell or Wish, just because it doesn't click Defog, doesn't mean it's not team support. Sand plus Stealth Rocks plus Boom or whatever else is team support, and this thing is so tanky it can be used that way. So, my verdict on Gigalith is draft. Definitely draft. If you like running Excadrill, if you like running Sand, give this thing a go. I remember Eric telling me once upon a time that he thought this thing just got up Stealth Rocks and died, and that was it. And he's since changed his tune, and he actually thinks Gigalith is a good Pokemon since he watched me use it in the UBL. So, I think if you give this Pokemon a chance and you use it properly, it can prove people wrong, and it can do a lot. So, yeah, that's my conclusion on Gigalith. Think it's good. Think you should give it a try. Thank you so much for loafing around with me, and I'll catch you again next time.